channel where IT meets innovation. Come, let's journey together into the world of tech. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Let's get started. Hey guys, welcome to my channels where we explore IT related skills together. In today's video, I'll be showing us a step-by-step of creating virtual machine on hypervisor. So what's an hypervisor? We need to first understand that. So an hypervisor is a software that enables virtualization. So we have different examples of hypervisor. We have the Hyper-V in Microsoft, we have the VMware, we have the VirtualBox. But specifically on this video, I'll be creating a virtual machine on Hyper-V, and the Hyper-V is generally known as divided into two. We can do it in form of type 1 and type 2. So type 1 will mean that I'm going to install the Hyper-V on my host computer, and then from my host computer I can then create a virtual machine. So it works like this: the host, which is my physical computer, then the Hyper-V, and then the virtual machine. Why type 2? The host first, then you need to install the operating system. After installing the operating system, then you need to install the hypervisor before you now install the virtual machine. But today, just like I've said, I'll be creating a virtual machine on Hyper-V. So before we start demonstrating, there are some requirements that our host laptop or our host system needs to meet before we carry this task out. So when I mean host computer, I mean my physical system. Now, the first thing that is important when we want to enable Hyper-V on our host computer is that it must have the right Windows. Now, when I mean the right Windows, it can be Windows Pro, it can be Enterprise, it can be Education, but it cannot be Home Edition. So which means Home Edition does not support hypervisor. And the next thing we need to also look is that does our host computer support hardware virtualization, which is very important. So the host must support hardware virtualization. And how do you know if your host support hardware virtualization? It's quite easy. Just come down to search and search for Task Manager. So under Task Manager, let's click on Task Manager. Good. So under Task Manager, just come to your left, this icon Performance, click on Performance, and then under the CPU, come down to this. You can see Virtualization Enabled. So this means that this host, actually the virtualization is enabled. So that does not automatically mean that the hypervisor is enabled. So having found out that the virtualization is enabled, the next thing we need to do is to go and enable the hypervisor that is on our host. So how do we get that done? So I'm going to close this. Just come down and search for turn Windows feature on or off. So you click on it. Let's enlarge it. Now then you come here and see Hyper-V. Then you are going to tick Hyper-V. So for me, I've ticked the Hyper-V before. That is why I'm seeing it here. Assuming I'm starting afresh, I'm going to meet it on tick. So to enable Hyper-V, I have to tick the Hyper-V. After ticking the Hyper-V, then I'm going to click on OK. Then I'm going to restart my laptop or my system. So having done that, then you can now search for Hyper-V Manager. So Hyper-V Manager. So Hyper-V Manager. So this Hyper-V Manager, this is where we are going to create our virtual machine. Let me recap based on what I've discussed earlier. To enable hypervisor on your host computer, it must have the right to Windows edition, which is, it can be Windows Pro, it can be Enterprise, but it does not virtualization is not supported, hypervisor is not supported in Home edition. And then the next thing is you need to ensure that your host, which is your laptop or your system, supports the hardware virtualization, and this can be checked by going to the task manager, to performance. Under CPU, you see virtualization enabled. When you see virtualization enabled, the next thing to do is to go down to search button and search for turn Windows feature on and off. That is where you are going to enable your hypervisor. It is also important to note that at least the host computer should have 8 gigabytes RAM. At least 8 gigabytes RAM. So now that we have our hypervisor open, so let's get started in creating a virtual machine. Now, before we create the virtual machine, the first thing that is expected of us to create is a virtual switch. A virtual switch. And what does a virtual switch, what does it do for us? A virtual switch is a network component that makes the virtual machine to connect either to external, which means the internet, or external network, or the internal network, which is the host, or connect to the connection between the two or more VMs. So simply put, virtual switch enables network connectivity. So it is very important to create our network component, and that is what our virtual switch will do for us. So let's create our virtual switch. So just come down by your right, look for virtual switch manager, click on virtual switch manager, and then you see new virtual switch. Then, just like I said, we have types of virtual switch, which are the external, the internal, and the private. So the external we deals with if we want to connect to internet or any external network. Internal we enable connectivity between the virtual machine and the host. And the private virtual switch, we enable the VMs to connect to another VM. So for the sake of this video, I will just stick to external because I want my VMs connect to the internet. So I'm going to leave it external. If you want internal, you click on internal and you create. I'm going to go for external, and then I will create virtual switch. Now I'm going to give my virtual switch a name. So let me name it. I'm going to give it my name, and virtual switch. You can give it any name that you want. So I'm going to name it virtual switch. Now, if you notice the connection type, you can see this Intel wireless AC 946. On this, there is my internet, like my system is connected to my router. So, and this is where I'm getting my internet from. So that is why we are having this Intel wireless AC 946, because right now my host is connected to internet. So, and this is the wireless the network is using to connect to internet. So I'm going to leave it like this, and then I'm going to click apply, yes, and then let's wait for it to change, and then we'll continue. Having done that, let's click on OK. So we've created our virtual switch, which is our network connectivity. So the next thing is, let's get started with creating our virtual machine. So to create our virtual machine, come to the right, you see new, click on new, and then click on virtual machine. So this is just the intro virtual machine wizard. Okay, so the next thing is let's click on next, and then the first thing is specify name and location. So I'm going to give this VM a name. So I'll just let me use my name and my VM. You can actually use any name that describe the purpose of the virtual machine. So the next thing is, where do we want our virtual machine to install? The location. I can leave it in the default, which means program data, Microsoft, Windows, Hyper-V, or I can actually click here and look for a folder. Maybe I have a particular folder where I want the virtual machine to be stored. So I'm going to leave it in the default, and then the next thing is to click on next. Now the next thing is to select the type of generation. So I'm going to go for generation 2 because it is a newer virtualization feature. So I'm going to click on generation 2, click on next. This is where I'm going to choose my memory. For the sake of this video, I'm going to leave it dynamic. Dynamic will mean that the memory will be changing, like you are not going to have a static memory. The memory will be changing based on how my virtual machine is working. So I'm going to click on next. Now this is where I'm going to pick my networking. I'm going to click here, and then you see the virtual switch that was created earlier. So I'm going to click on this and then click on next. So I'm going to leave this the name of my virtual disk. I'm going to leave the location, but I'm going to change the size based on my host space. So I'm going to put in my, let me use 40. I think 40 is okay. And then after that, I'm going to click on next, and this is where I'm going to install my operating system. So I'm going to be installing it from a bootable image file, which is, and the image file I'm using is Windows 10, which I downloaded it from the Microsoft website. So I'm going to click on install, and this is where I'm going to pick the image file. So I'm going to come down to Windows 10 and click on open, and then I'm going to click on next, and then the next thing is finish. So let's wait for it to configure. Good. So we have our VM ready. So this is our VM. The next thing is let's switch our VM on. Let's connect it. So I'm going to click on the VM, click on start, then again click on connect, and let's see what we have. So let's wait for the VM to get to load. No, here I'm not shutting it down. This is what we show. So let's bring this up. This is the Windows setup. So we just click on next, and then we install the window. Let's install the window now. I don't have a product key, and then this is where I'm going to select the operating system that I want to install. So let me go for Windows 10 Pro, and then click on next. So this is the license term, which true, set, then click on next. I'm going to go for custom, click on next. So let's okay, so I'm going to choose the keyboard. Let me match this so that I can see, okay, and layouts. I'm going to skip. I'm just going to go with offline accounts because with offline accounts. So I'm going to go limited experience. If you have a login details, you can actually use that something. So we're gonna try again. Network issue. So this one I'm gonna put my name. So I'm going to use my name. Next is my password. So select security questions. What are your prospect name? Security second question. What name of the city were you born? This is part of cyber security measures. You don't have to write. You don't have to give the right response. As long as you know what you inputted. What was your childhood's nickname? My childhood's nickname. Let me just use Boyd. So what I just did there is one of security measures. Like when you are answering them security questions, you don't have to put the right answer. Like, okay, if I'm asked which state was I born, and I decided not to answer it with my state, and I just use the name of anything, so that if hackers are trying to check my accounts, they might get all these questions right. Or if I'm asked which country are you born, and I put Yam, they can never trace that. I believe you get what I'm trying to do. It's just a way of securing your account. So I'm going to click on next. But just make sure that you remember the answers in case you want to make use of the security. Okay, so not now. I'm not ready for anything now. Next. Want to use your location, you are free. But for me, for the sake of this video, I will just go with this default. And then we have just to be patient. Finally, we are getting ready for you. Okay, so I'm going to log in with my password. Here we are. Let's okay, so we have a virtual machine.